So I have been on YouTube for quite a while now. I want to take a moment to say hi to all the people who somehow just discovered this channel and haven't ever watched my main one. You should go check that one out. I put a lot more time and energy into that one than this. This one's really just me ranting about stuff that annoys me. But I've been on YouTube for quite a while. I started my channel in its current iteration in April of 2017, which was more than 7.5 years ago. But I was actually on YouTube for a little while before that, for a couple of months in, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was around 2014 or 2015. I just put out a couple of videos about anime and manga, because that was what I was originally interested in and trying to do. Unfortunately, I've deleted all those, and I don't have any backups of them, so I can't show you proof of this. You'll just have to take my word for it. But the point is, if you include that, I've been on YouTube for more than 10 years now. And in that time, I have learned a couple of things about not just how this works in a business sense or how it works in a technical sense, but how to navigate the internet, and how it's taught me things about how the internet works and how internet culture works and just how humans work, how society works nowadays. And I don't know, I kind of just wanted to put some of this out there. Maybe it'll be advice for other people who want to start a channel at some point, or maybe it's just things that people find interesting. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things I've learned doing YouTube for as long as I've been doing it, however you want to measure that. Number one is that subscriber count doesn't really matter anymore. And this is true for most of the internet nowadays. You know, whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, everywhere has tweaked their algorithms to the point where your follower or subscriber count just doesn't matter anymore. And part of this is also the fault of the users themselves. Like, I did a poll a while ago, like a year or two ago, I think, on my main channel, asking people how often they checked their subscription feed, and 40 some odd % of them said they checked it less than half the time. So you're not really using the product the way you're supposed to, but also places like YouTube have tweaked their algorithm. Like, they no longer show you what you're following and what you want to see. It shows you what they think you want to see, which often does not line up with what you actually see. And so what this has turned into is people, number one, chasing trends, but also just trying desperately to game the algorithm and figure out, okay, what is going to actually be seen, what is going to grab people's attention, what is going to not only keep my initial audience engaged, but also bring in new people. And so nowadays, it's discouraged to actually take time to build up an audience, and everyone is just chasing the same couple of things, the same basic lowest common denominator. Seems like a bit of a harsh way of putting it, but it wouldn't be totally inaccurate. So having things like this plaque, which I'm proud of having that means I got 100,000 subscribers, but at the same time, that just doesn't mean that much anymore. Like, there was a time when it did matter, when that was like the biggest thing, because people's recommendations, when you were on either the homepage or when you clicked on a video, the video recommendations were stuff that was related to that video, and that's just not really the case anymore. So building an audience is less important than it used to be. Number two is that starting gets harder every year. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Part of the reason for it is just that the technical hurdles that you need to overcome are becoming bigger and bigger. You know, and it costs money to get decent camera and sound and lighting equipment. Trust me, I know. And just a little bit of advice, just spend some more time and save up and buy the really expensive, nice stuff, because if you try cheaping out on it, it's just not going to work properly. Like, you buy it nice or you buy it twice. But then you also have to learn how to use all of that and how to film it in a way that is actually engaging and interesting for your audience. And it takes more time and energy and becomes more difficult every year. But also, on top of the technical hurdles becoming bigger, there's just more and more channels out there. Like, there's more and more content being produced all the time. And occasionally some of it gets deleted or removed for one reason or another, but most of it's going to stay there. Like, if people don't like what's new, they can always go back and watch old stuff. And you're trying to stand out in a massive sea of other crap, and that sea is just getting filled up more and more and more over time. Number 3, if something doesn't work, feel free to try something different. It took me about a year and a half for my channel to go anywhere, which I was okay with because I was really just doing it as a hobby at first. And I guess I still am. It's because I have an actual job. It's just a hobby that I actually get paid for. But for a long time, it was literally just reviews. It was just me reading stuff, talking about my thoughts on it. And they were mostly spoiler-free reviews. I didn't do any long, super in-depth stuff at first. I didn't do any discussions of wider themes or trends I noticed. I didn't really try and associate with the booktuber community or anything like that. I was just doing that one thing for a while, and I wasn't getting much attention. And at some point, I was just inspired to start doing world-building analysis. My first one was on An Ember in the Ashes, and when I put that out, that video didn't do super well at first, but it didn't really bother me. I think I had 30 subscribers at the time, and it wound up getting something like 20 views, which was, at the time, that was more than I usually got. And I was like, cool. It got a little bit more attention, didn't really make my channel blow up, but I had fun doing it. And then I did a couple more world-building analyses, and my Wheel of Time one, that one actually blew up, and that's what got my channel some actual attention for once. And then once I had that foundation built, I could continue growing from there because I had an actual audience. And I think part of the reason that having that one video blow up was able to make my entire channel start growing is that they had a lot of, I had a really big backlog, so when fans found that video, rather than just watching that one going, that was kind of cool, and then moving on, they watched that, and then they saw I had other similar stuff, and they watched those, and then they just got more involved and more engaged with my content and became actual fans, which stuck around for a while. So if you're trying something and that something really isn't working, don't be afraid to be different once in a while. I'm not saying change everything you're doing on a dime, but feel free to just experiment a little, especially when you're starting out. And I think a lot of YouTubers, including myself, get into a mindset where you're afraid to do anything different because, what if that doesn't work out? And even if your channel's in kind of a slump, which does happen, it goes up and down a lot, even if your channel's in a slump, it can be really easy to think that, okay, if I change something, it might be even worse. So what if I just try doing what I'm doing now, but even better? And I think a lot of content creators on here really just need to get it into their minds that you can change things occasionally. If it doesn't work out, then just go back to what you're doing. Number 4, this applies to the internet in general, not just YouTube, but if you want to succeed, you have to be annoying, but you can't be too annoying. And what I mean by that is that, I'll get into this more later, but if you're putting opinions or anything like that out on the internet and someone isn't annoyed with you, then that means your opinions are probably so dull and milquetoast that they essentially, they just aren't leaving any sort of impact on anyone. And you're never gonna reach that much success if what you're saying is that dull. People should be able to strongly agree or strongly disagree with whatever you're saying. Again, I mostly talk about books and other media, so for me, this is kind of just having hot takes on stuff. Last year, or the beginning of this year rather, I mentioned that I hated Baldur's Gate 3. I just did. That video wasn't super well received, it wasn't super popular, but that is genuinely how I felt, and I think a large portion of my audience does respect that. Whether they agree with me or disagree with me, they at least know, okay, that's really his opinion. And I'm not saying everything you say needs to be some sort of spicy, ultra-hot take, but people should be able to know what you think about something, whether you're talking about media, books, movies, politics, whatever you're talking about, people should be able to know what your thoughts and feelings on it are. And some people will be annoyed or upset with that. But the thing is, whatever you're talking about and however you present yourself, you can't be more annoying than the people who hate you, right? So a good example of this that I'm going to use is Hassan Piker. He's a very big streamer. I don't particularly like him. He makes good points sometimes, but he's also very obnoxious and annoying. And I'm not going to get into super detail on that because there's always some sort of drama wave surrounding him. But basically, I think he's annoying. That's the long and short of it. However, he has, as pretty much everyone on the internet does, he has a group of obsessive anti-fans who are constantly following him and going, look how much I hate this guy, everything he does is stupid and annoying. And those people are far more annoying than he is, because Hassan is at least sometimes capable of being normal, or at least acting normal, you know? And even if he's very dumb sometimes, he's very smart other times, he's also just kind of a charming dude, he's very good looking, so like he has positive qualities, whereas most of the people who hate him, even if they have genuine criticisms, are just obnoxious to deal with, and so he winds up looking better by contrast, and so his career is able to continue unabated. So that's basically what I'm saying. You should be annoying, but not too annoying. Number 5, everything is personas and branding. What I mean by that is, whenever someone's on camera, they are trying to project some sort of persona. It's not exactly themselves, you know, and to a lesser extent this happens in regular social interactions as well. You know, you're never going to act exactly how you think and feel and how you want to say things, how you want to do things all the time. Like, in certain situations you are going to present a different side of yourself, and whenever you're doing any sort of content creation, whether it's streaming or YouTube videos or whatever else, you are trying to get some sort of reaction out of the audience and make them feel a specific way, so you are going to be putting on some sort of persona. Someone like me, who deliberately tries to do that as little as possible, it still happens sometimes. You know, it's just inevitable. It's going to happen. Like, this isn't 100% a real view of me and my personality and how I think and feel about things, but I try to be genuine about my thoughts and feelings. However, some people, their persona that they put on in their content and in public is a lot different than their regular personality. And that's fine, but that is something that everyone needs to keep in mind, especially once that persona becomes part of their brand, because once it's out there and it's making money, that's what it becomes. It becomes a brand. So if your brand is that you're a raging asshole all the time, well, people aren't going to care that much about when bad things happen to you or when you're the victim in some sort of unpleasant circumstance, because whether you really are an asshole or not, your persona is, and your brand is what people are judging you on. Similarly, when people have a super nice and wholesome ooh-woo small bean type persona and that type of brand, people are going to be a lot more willing to forgive transgressions and a lot less willing to think, wait, that person might have done something bad. Number 6, the customer is always whiny. Yeah, this one is a little harsh, but basically, across all like age demographics, racial demographics, political beliefs, whatever, audiences are always going to be kind of whiny and demanding stuff that they can't have and they probably wouldn't even want, even if they could have it. It doesn't matter how well received the stuff you make is, some people are going to hate it. Like, that was my earlier point. You should be annoying, but not too annoying. And there's always going to be people who are trying to completely rework everything you do. Like, they'll say, hey, I know you're talking about books, but you should talk about this thing. This is not a book. This is a video game or whatever else. And I know you don't really talk about those, but you should do it. Like, I get a lot of suggestions like that. And I just think to myself, why don't you go watch a different channel then if that's what you're looking for, because you're clearly not looking for what I'm producing. I don't have a whole lot else to add here, just that audiences are really whiny, and if you let it get to you, then I suppose it would be bad, but for me, I'm usually able to separate the noise, the criticism which doesn't really matter, from the stuff which is actually making a good point. Like, I've gotten comments and stuff over the years from people saying, hey, maybe shift this up or change this or something, and I'll go, oh yeah, that's a good point. I should take that into account when making more stuff. But whatever the case, there's going to be a lot of people who are just whiny and annoying. Number 7, don't let YouTube take your weekend. So those of you who have gone to college or university after you finish high school, you've probably experienced something akin to, I don't know, a schedule shock, I guess might be a word for it, because for me, when I finished high school, it was really weird shifting to a college schedule, because in high school it was 5 days a week, it was the same hours every day, I was taking the same classes most days as well, so it was kind of the same thing over and over, and on the weekend, I had Saturday, Sunday off, that was the same days everyone else had off. But in college, you usually will only go to each of your classes once a week, maybe twice, and so your schedule winds up being really weird. Like, I think my first semester of college, I had class on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and one on Friday. So I had Monday and Tuesday off, but there was a lot of other work I had to get done, and I was also working an actual regular job while I was doing this. And so my schedule was constantly shifting and changing and kind of all over the place. And when I eventually went to YouTube and didn't have a regular job, although I do have a regular job now, it was very strange because without having that schedule there, it kind of messed with my perception of time, as it were. Like, you know how some days you wake up and you just can tell within a couple of minutes that, yeah, today feels like Wednesday, because, I don't know, Wednesday just has a specific feeling which you're used to, whether it's, again, work or school or whatever else. Most Wednesdays go something like this, and that just wasn't a thing anymore when all I was doing was YouTube and occasionally school. Basically, the point I'm getting at is that it's really easy to, when you're making your own schedule for everything, to let that just sort of take over everything. Like, you have no time off, and you're just working on YouTube or streaming or whatever else 7 days a week, and you shouldn't do that. You know, you should set aside at least 1 day per week where you just go, I'm not gonna work on any of that this time. Like, it could be Tuesday, Sunday, like whatever it is, just 1 day where you relax a little bit, because otherwise it consumes your life in a way that even regular jobs don't. Number 8, entitlement is rampant. This one I was considering including as part of the customer is always whiny, but I think it's different enough that it warrants its own spot on the list, because so a while ago, YouTube started cracking down a lot harder on people with ad blockers. Now, personally, I think that ads on YouTube have gotten ridiculous, and that's why I have YouTube Premium. You know, like, if you're on here a lot, it's actually pretty good. Like, it costs money, nothing in the world is truly free, but it is worth it for me, because it saves me a lot of time, and it allows me to watch videos as they're meant to be viewed instead of having to deal with ads and stuff. That is the implicit agreement that you're making when you watch stuff on YouTube. You can either pay with your money via YouTube Premium, because then the people you're watching do get some cut of that, or you can pay with your time by watching ads. And a lot of people hate the idea of paying for it at all, even if they're not actually, you know, paying for it with money. They want everything for free all the time. And, guys, that's not how the world works. You know, this isn't even like criticizing certain political ideologies or anything, because that's not a real ideology. It doesn't matter if you're left-wing or right-wing or whatever. Just saying, I want shit for free all the time is not how anything works. But when I said something about this, saying, hey guys, like, I get why you want to use adblock, but other YouTubers are kind of happy about adblock being, you know, no longer as viable, and why are you getting mad at us for it? Like, we put in a lot of work entertaining you guys. We have to be compensated for that somehow, and people got really upset at me for saying that. And I was like, okay. It's not that big a deal, because I don't have that much control over it, but at the same time, like, what are you expecting? You know, why are you acting so entitled again? And this is just the internet in general, you know, like, I also think that a lot of ads have gotten invasive and annoying over the years, but someone's got to pay at some point, and if you're not going to pay with actual money, you got to pay by viewing ads. That's just how life works. Number 9, drama is easy, but it's not inevitable or sustainable. So, it's no secret at this point that when there's big drama surrounding someone, they get a huge boost in attention. And whether you're, again, on YouTube or wherever else, pretty much everyone who wants to make money on the internet is somehow monetizing people's attention. So the more attention you get, the more money you make. And so some sort of drama, whether you're being accused of committing some sort of horrible crime, or something bad has happened to you, or you're just getting into pointless fights with other somewhat famous internet celebrities, that does give you more attention and more money, at least for a brief period of time. And again, this isn't inevitable. As far as I'm aware, I've never been involved in any major drama. Again, I say as far as I'm aware because it's entirely possible there was some that I just didn't even notice. But, you know, it's not inevitable that this is going to happen at some point because, you know, you can just kind of mind your own business and be chill, and most of the time that is enough to prevent anything bad from happening. But even if you seek out drama, which some people pretty clearly do, even if you seek it out and try to start it to get attention, it's not very sustainable because most of the time, once the drama's over, everything will drop back to more or less where it was before. Sometimes some of the new audience you gained during that time period will stick around, but not always. This is ultimately what was the downfall of Onision, because he was constantly surrounded by drama for years and years and years, but people just kind of got bored with it, and they didn't really care about his actual content that much, and even the people who did care about his actual content outside of drama farming became annoyed with him for the way he acted, and, well, eventually he just got completely demonetized, and he's still on YouTube, but he doesn't make any money off of it, and I'll be honest, I'm not following him that closely anymore, because I just don't care. You know, that's what it eventually comes down to. It's not sustainable, because people will stop caring. And number 10, this feels kind of obvious to me, but it still bears repeating. Your life and your job are separate. You know, the people who try and have their life and their job be the same thing, like those family vloggers, or people whose entire brand is just constantly starting fights and doing drama, like, again, Onision or Keemstar is another good example. Those people, their job and their life, are not separate, and that eventually causes things to, let's say, fall in on themselves, both professionally and in your personal life. Maybe I've watched too many YouTube documentaries that are about, like, the rise and fall of various e-celebs and their careers, but a common theme that you see in those is people mixing their personal life and their professional life. You know, I don't talk that much about my personal life on YouTube, not on this and not on my main channel. And that's not because I'm trying to be cagey and keep things hidden. Like, there's not a lot of details that I'm, like, ashamed of or anything. It's just not really relevant to the content I'm talking about. It's not really relevant to the discussions we're having. When it becomes relevant, I'm okay bringing up an anecdote or something, but it's just, it just doesn't matter that much for the most part. And I haven't, like, brought on any of my family or friends on here, not because I'm, like, adamantly against that, but it hasn't mattered that much. You know, like, you people watching this, you don't know my friends, you don't know my family, you don't really know my personal life, and again, I'm not, like, trying to keep an iron wall there separating everything. Like, if one becomes relevant to the other, I will talk about it. Like, I have discussions with my family about this and how it's going. Like, just on Thanksgiving a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about some of the things I'm talking about in this very video. But ultimately, there does need to be some healthy boundaries between the two, and if you're unable to maintain those boundaries, then when bad things happen in one, it will inevitably affect the other. You know, like, if shit was to go down in the YouTube world, then it wouldn't affect my personal life that much, probably. And same with, if shit went down in my personal life, it probably wouldn't affect my YouTube stuff that badly. Like, a couple years ago when my dad died, you know, that caused issues in my personal life. That was a difficult couple of weeks for me, but I don't think it really affected what I was putting out. You know, it didn't affect the quality or quantity of what I was doing. I think this advice applies to, you know, regular jobs as well. However, with those, it's oftentimes easier to maintain that separation because even if you work from home, you usually have to go out to another place to work sometimes. Like, I work in a factory, I'm there for 40 hours a week or more, and when I come home, you know, that's it. That's my time, you know, and if you're just a YouTuber or just a streamer or whatever, you're usually doing all of that in the same place where you live, and sometimes with people that you live with or with your friends or something. And so those healthy boundaries can break down or just straight up be non-existent from the beginning. And again, if you watch the stuff about like the rise and fall of various e-celebs, you start seeing this happen a lot. So I don't know, if you're planning on doing anything on YouTube or Twitch or wherever, just try to remember that. And I don't have anything else to say. I hope you all have a lovely day. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe. And also, again, check out my main channel if you're one of the people who's here who hasn't done that. Goodbye.